so I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way as me, but as you get older, the most valuable resource you have is time. It's time that dictates what games I play, and for that reason, also the games I don't play. So this here is a list of the 5 games I played in 2023, but for whatever reason, didn't finish. Before the comments come at me, that doesn't mean the games in this list are bad. They either just didn't hold my attention long enough, maybe had some game-breaking bugs at the time, or something bigger and better just came along that required 250 hours of my free time. I'm looking at you, Tears of the Kingdom. And at number 1, it's Hogwarts Legacy. The premise of this game is something that really interested me when the trailers were first shown. I'm by no stretch a big Harry Potter fan, but I've seen the films and read several of the books, so when an open world RPG style Harry Potter game was announced, I pre-ordered it and was ready to dive in. Unfortunately, the experience didn't immediately grab me, with the combat feeling slow and clunky, repetitive fetch quests, and a relatively bland feeling open world. With plenty still to do in God of War Ragnarok, I sold my copy of Hogwarts Legacy at my local game store and returned to working on the Platinum Trophy for everyone's favourite father and son god duo, Kratos and Atreus. Also guys, please, if you're gonna make a Harry Potter game with a Quidditch pitch and with broomsticks, please, just put the game of Quidditch in there. Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup on the PlayStation 2 was amazing. I got it bundled with a silver PS2 when I was about 10, and it's one of my fondest memories. So please just put Quidditch in the next one. Next up at 2, it's Atomic Heart. This game just had a really weird launch. There was a day 1 patch that the game's menu warned you not to start the game without. Stupidly, I ignored this, and then I lost 10 hours of play that I'd sunk into the intro section of this game, before having to restart and replay the entire thing with the patch installed. At this point, I was 20 hours in, tired and frustrated after encountering multiple bugs and crashes. Even with the day 1 patch installed, I eventually gave in and quit when I reached one of the first bosses in the open world, Hedgie. This huge sphere that looks like it wouldn't be out of place in the first Incredibles movie annihilated me, as for some reason I had no ammo, no health, and no way of getting any more. I soon called it a day, but I'm sure I will be replaying it in the future, as there seems to be plenty of interesting looking DLC looming on the horizon. In at number 3 we have Dying Light 2. I want to start by saying I love the original. At the time it came out, it greatly expanded upon the success of Techland's Dead Island. Even the expansions were hugely successful in their own right, offering you a way to explore outside the zombie-infested city of Haran. So when I learned that a sequel was in the works, I couldn't help but be excited. However, with a 4-year wait and some very high expectations, I soon found myself losing interest. This was indeed more Dying Light, but that felt like all it was. The promise of paragliding between buildings whilst parkouring on rooftops seemed to underdeliver. The combat was very similar to that of the first, and the decision-making aspect of the game seemed to not have too much of an effect on our story or environment around you as promised. Although I made it through about 50% of the game, I soon found myself distracted by the PS5 re-release of The Last of Us Part 1. In at number 4 we have Horizon Forbidden West. I think my last attempt was probably the 3rd time I tried to get into the meat of the game without making it past the first 10 to 15 hours. The game lured me in with the promise of everything great about the first entry to the series, but with updated features like a Breath of the Wild inspired hang glider, new weapons, new mounts, and a whole new story. Unfortunately, the story is slow to start, the initial game is extremely similar to that of Horizon Zero Dawn, and a huge map populated with side quest markers is extremely overwhelming for someone with limited time. I think this really highlights how games like Elden Ring, Tears of the Kingdom, and Baldur's Gate 3 have all really nailed that aspect of exploration, letting players find things for themselves, as opposed to filling a map up with repetitive side quests. All of this said, I would really like to finish this game as it sits proudly in my PS5 disc collection. I've also seen small clips of what looked like an amazing Vegas style area later in the game that I'd love to explore. I also love the science fiction aspects to the story in this sequel and would love to see the story rounded off nicely and a happy ending for our protagonist Aloy. And finally, at number 5 we have Sonic Frontiers. I love this game. Finally, after years of waiting, we have a brilliant, fast-paced AAA Sonic game that's just so much fun to play. The open world aspect works really well, even if there can be a little too much busy work. The stages you play in cyberspace are some of the best Sonic levels created in a mainline Sonic game in recent years. And they also sport one of the greatest Sonic soundtracks ever created. Seriously, go listen to it on Spotify, there's a 7-hour playlist. I have a long list of excuses for not finishing it, the first one being I think I got fatigued by the repetitive nature of each world. If you take a look at Kronos Island and Chaos Island, they are incredibly similar looking. What eventually led me to put it on the back burner was just the incredible list of games that came out at the back end of 2023. Alan Wake was my first distraction, and as a side effect of that I now feel like I really need to commit and finish Control. And of course Baldur's Gate came out. I'm yet to play it, but I think that may be where I spend my next 70 hours on my PlayStation 5. So there you have it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are there any other gamers out there who find it hard to juggle work and life commitments with putting down 40 solid hours into a game's main story? I am seriously trying to prioritise my list of unfinished games this January in 2024, hoping to be ready to give The Last of Us 2 Remaster some attention later on this month. And then there's the huge task of getting myself back in training for the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC for Elden Ring. Like I said, let me know, leave a comment and please subscribe as this is my first video. I've been the Dusty Boy and you've been great as always.